Hey everybody, me Joe with Balsa USA. So I'm here tonight for episode 5 of the Shop Time Live Balsa USA 1/6 Scale Newport 17 build along. Welcome to the shop. Tonight we've got Chuck Hamilton in the shop with us, who's going to help us along with the build. And Ronnie is absent because he has some actual real world stuff he has to do, so he can't come and play with airplanes. I think the boys' priorities are a little screwed up. Just saying. Just those of you that are just joining us, if you head over to balsausa.com and enter in coupon code N17BUILD, all caps, no spaces, in the coupon code box, you will receive 10% off of your very own Newport 17 1/6 scale kit, so you can follow along with us on the build if you so choose. That's a 10% off coupon, N17BUILD, all caps, no spaces. All right. So how we doing, Chuck?
Hey, we're doing good, Joe. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Doing real well. We gotten through quite a bit of stuff. We're moving right along. We're just about this episode and one more away from the completion of the fuselage. And on Saturday, our intent is to start the stab. We've had a lot of folks showing up. We've got already 25 live viewers. I want to encourage you folks to interact with the stream, post questions. I monitor that pretty closely. That's why I get built ahead, so that I can monitor the chat. Make sure you let us know you're here. And if you have any questions or any input, please feel free to share it. That's part of what this is about. It's not only just the building aspect of it, but also the interaction of being able to hang out with like-minded people. Even though it is on just a computer screen at this point. All righty. So I don't know if we had any questions from last week. I got a couple that we fielded after the fact. I know we've got a couple of people on the build that have ordered their kits and have gotten started. And David actually got his the other day and is almost caught up to us. I noticed his post today. He got caught up with some domestic duties and has his plywood sides on and his blind nuts installed. So he's catching up with us pretty quickly. I see William's here. Good evening, William. How are you? Thanks for joining us. As we move through this, please make sure you don't forget, we are available for questions. Please make sure that you let us know if you have any. All right. So with that being said, I think we're just about ready to get started. And we are starting off on step 22.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we left last time, we had the fuselage turtle deck installed and aft in the rear turtle deck as well. And actually, when I cut off, I actually had this. We talked about the installation of that. How I went about it. We had a couple of questions on the notch outs up there, which I think Dave was asking. We solved that. Ronnie was already doing the aft turtle deck sheeting installed and got that done. So I kind of caught up to him, and that's where we left. That's where we left everything off at. And so now we'll actually work on the fuselage sides. So just a couple things real quick. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to do a Newport N17 BIS. BIS. So guys, get your phones out, get your laptops out, Google what an N17 BIS is. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but moving forward. One thing I did do, guys, remember, it's optional to cut out the cockpit area. I'm saving that a little bit for later down the road. And so far with the further construction that I've done, that seems to be a good move on my part. Like I said, I tend to be a little bit clumsy, more used to working on a little bit larger craft. So, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later. Plus, it also helped when I blocked in, once I had the sheeting installed, I blocked that in. I just seemed to get a little bit nicer transition as this area did a little flimsy with that cutout. So I'll do that probably right before I go to covering. So that being said, let's move on. So the first thing to do is we're going to stand it on its nose, and we're going to install F1A. And this is basically the chin cowl for the front of the aircraft, so that we can actually start blocking in, if you will, the fuselage sides. So I'm going to mount that former, and I'm just going to tack it in here. Just the reason we do it on the bench is that we actually square a nice perpendicular area, and it does make it real nice and handy. So I'm just going to put that on the bench, and I'm actually just going to tack glue it in place at this point with my thin CA. Try not to glue to the board. I don't have any wax paper down, but I really don't think at this point if I'm going to need it. But all right, we're good. Do that like that. I kind of knocked it loose when I put it down on the table because I tack glued it. So, but we're good. Perfect. All right, let's square. And I'll take my little cheat straight edge here, put across it. Yeah, that's good. All right, now I'm going to finish gluing it. And boom, done. Do notice on F1A, there is a top and a bottom. They are the same right and the left, but they're the top and bottom. The bottom's the flat edge here, guys. As that sheeting rolls to the bottom, there's a flat edge. The top is more rounded. Now, that being said, moving on to the next F3s. There is a left and a right. We did talk about that in the last episode. I just wanted to bring it out again that there is a difference on the left side. The left side has more of a round shaped bulge to it, and that's for the ammo bays for the gun. So moving forward, now I'm going to mount F3B, I guess. That's what they call it. Oh, I'm sorry, F3C, and that mounts to the aft end of that bulkhead there, and lines up with the leading edge of the wing cutout.
So I wanted to point something out real quick that I located in the plans. We did find another area, and just so you guys know, we are correcting for this as we go. If you can see here, it's labeled wrong on step 2. This is going to be on page 22, photo 39. It says F3C and F3B. F3B is going to be your left side. F3C is going to be your right side. But if you watch and pay close attention to the picture, the parts in the picture are not labeled correctly. This one should have been labeled F3B, left, and this one should have been labeled F3C. Now, if you have any questions for what these parts are supposed to look like, if you just put them next to each other and stack them up, you will notice that the F3B, which will be your left side, is going to be a little bit bigger than the F3C, which is going to be your right side. As Chuck stated, those were put on there because on the Nieuport 17, that was where the ammo went for the guns.
Yeah, it just gave them a little bit more room to load more ammo, which on a Nieuport 17, that gun was on the left-hand side. It wasn't on center like a Southwood Pupper or something like that. So, okay, so I've got F3 installed as well. F1 is installed, and at this point, we start taking our 3/16 square stringers, and we're going to mount it from the very aft edge of that is F4 back there, but it's going to sit flush. And I'll have Joe has a better picture of this for you and how it sits flush down in. And that's sighted up pretty good. So you can see from my angle here that it sits flush right down here. All right, there you go, Joe. Joe's got it set in there right.
Just so you know, when you put these together, to get this flush, you're going to put a little bit of twist in the bottom and the top stringer. It doesn't take a lot, but just so you know, that is correct. You will have to twist them a little bit towards this end where they mount to that cross beam so that you get them straight. It's hard to tell in the pictures, but this top one here and this bottom both have just a little bit of twist.
And that guys, and that's when you start. Remember, we talked earlier, I think it was in episode 2 or 3, when we talked about selection of wood. Now, I saved my side stringers up here. I purposely went with heavier. I keep on the heavy stuff to the front, the softer stuff to the back. But no, when doing something like that, where you have to apply a little bit of a twist, go ahead and use the softer boss, so that'll help you. If you don't have any left, say that what you designate is still hard, you can put a couple of kerf cuts in there on and so it allows it to free up a little bit, or you can always soak it in a little bit of ammonia, a little bit of Windex, and kind of apply that twist in there. Remember, taking the stress out. Also, you can do is remember that split that we did right back here. Okay, when we were building the fuselage sides, you can actually add a split in there, glue one side, take the stress out, glue the other side back in, and allow a little bit of that twist. Okay, now for the Nieuport, from a Nieuport 17 to a Nieuport 17 bis. This is where things for me are going to change. I just want to do something a little bit different. Just that's how I am. So on a Nieuport 17 bis, the biggest visual change is they've made the rear of the fuselage more rounder. Okay, on the full scale, they went from 110 horsepower engine, 110 horsepower engine to 130. And so while they're trying to get more power, they're also trying to streamline the aircraft as well, or streamline the aircraft as well to get that airflow into the tail better. And by rounding the sides, that's going to help it. They were testing this airplane against the Sopwith Camels and the Sopwith Tripes for maneuverability. And so this is where, if there's something you want to do, you like to do yours, you're more than happy to do it. You'll have to purchase a little bit extra balsa wood, but not a big deal. So moving on to the bis. All right. What I had to do is I ended up adding a third bulkhead, F3. There you go. That's in 17 bis right there. There you go. Blow it up, Joe. You can actually see from the lines right there that there's some corrugation. They look like corrugation, but that's actually the fabric that's strung over. And that's actually one of the subjects I'm looking at. I actually texted Joe earlier today. The other one that I'm looking at, kind of a high visibility thing, but the Navy mostly used these and then used them for testing. There wasn't a whole lot out there as far as combat. Saw a lot of them saw action, but there still was enough out there to have a pretty decent presence. And the changes they made was very comparable, and they were happy.
These are very similar.
Yeah, which then moved into, if you start doing start looking at your history on the Nieuport 17, it went from a Nieuport 17 to a Nieuport 24. More or less using the same airframe. They made some more alterations. Obviously, they kept the rounded sides. They actually enlarged the rudder. Now the rudder combination looks more almost like a Nieuport 28, which was the next series, which is a completely different airframe. But they changed the rudder configuration, and they also rounded the wingtips somewhat, not drastically, but they're definitely put more radius on the corners of the wings. So that was kind of like a stepping stone between the 17 and the Nieuport 28. Obviously, you keep adding more horsepower, get more performance, but also more maneuverability. So
hold on one second. So Jim, the reason that is called a bis is because that stood for bishop.
Actually, I did a little bit of homework. Actually, bis is Latin for second, or actually I have that notes right here. Haha, because I knew this was going to come up because I did not know what that meant. Right here. By the way, bis is from the Latin and literally means twice. Okay, although can be used in the sense as the second, as in the Nieuport, the second version of the Nieuport. That's what I googled this morning. That's what Wikipedia told me, because I was trying to figure out what bis stood for. But you know what? I like bishop better. It just sounds better.
Yeah, that's just where when I researched, that's what I got back, and I didn't spend much time on it, so I should have dug a little deeper. But that's what it is. So basically, it's a V2 of a Nieuport 17.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a V2.
Yeah.
So okay. So moving
forward, let's get a couple of questions here so we don't get too far behind. Let's see. We've got Dan's waiting on his D8. That should be there within the next day or two. Yes, Chris, we're using mostly CA for the most part. There is a little bit of tight bond in there. You can use tight bond if you need a little bit more working time. I think Chuck used tight bond on his sheeting on the top. I used CA. It was fine. It's just a work time issue. It doesn't really do much for strength. I feel like the thin CA does a little bit better job of wicking into the wood than any of the other glues.
I agree.
But they work fine. Epoxy is going to be used around the hard points and to hinge. That's it. Everything else, I build primarily with thin CA. Use a little bit of thick here and there if I need some extra work time. But it's just personal preference. All the materials that we've talked about work just great. And Jerry, there is a multiple list of people that have designed our kits over the years. I know Ron Bush developed some, Dave Lewis developed some, Billy developed some. So there's several people. We do appreciate the fact that you think they fly good. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys, for all jumping in there, and hello here from the northern Indiana. So back onto the N17 twice. Bishop. Let's call it the Bishop. I like that. All right. Okay, so to change it to a Bishop, let's call it that, I've had to add a third bulkhead, all right? What I use for the pattern on the third bulkhead, I'm going to call this F4, and I'm going to call it F3.5 because it actually sits right at the opening for the rear cabane struts, all right? I actually used F3, all right, as my template. But what I did to change it was right where the lower notch is at, or the very lowest part of the notch, I actually trimmed that bulkhead back, all right? So basically, I took the height off of that 3/16 inch squares stock. Does that make sense? All right. That's just the way it happened to work. It happened to work out, and it worked out really good. So then what I did, which is then removing very similar moving forward, is now instead of running my sticks all the way back to the trailing edge of the wing, I stop them right at that bulkhead. All right. And so I lined up all three there, and that was the biggest change on that. The next step, and I will continue to do this, would be adding these stringers right here. And basically what I did on the stringers is when I added them, by the way, the stringers are 1/16 by 1/8. All right. And you'll need 10 total for the aircraft, 5 per side. All right. And you can order those parts or those stringers at
So hold that right there for a second, Chuck. I'm going to try to do a side-by-side here so folks that are just joining in can see. Let me do this. Well, that took it away. So here's mine. And you can see, I'm trying to show a picture that's got it. I'm going the wrong way. I want to be able to, so they can see it to compare. So here's a good
one.
Right there. So see, my stringers go back to F4 and butt to F4. Chuck's first set goes to F3 and stops, or to his new
F3.5.
Yeah, his F3.5.
Yep.
And then his stops there, and then he has another set that's going to go from there back all the way to the back. Right. That's the only change that he's really made.
That's the biggest change, is where Joe's will stop there. Mine is going to stop right there and sit flush, just like you did on the original design. And then what I'll do is I'll take my 1/16 by 1/8 inch stock, and I'll run it parallel to the top longeron. And looking at my 3 view, okay, it ends up being about 1.125 inches separation gaps. And what I'll do is I'll continually run those stringers all the way down. Now, what you might find out you have to do is I did right here is I had to put a little bit of scrap piece in there to act almost as like a little mini bulkhead. Probably can't really see that showing up, but I did that after the fact. Okay, and what I'm pointing to is going to be right here. It's just actually a scrap piece of the 1/16 by 1/8, and that kind of made it so that the stringers are not going to bounce. Everywhere else, it's actually glued across every piece of stick all the way to the tail. And they'll run, I'm going to do this for here so you can see this. The top 2 run all the way to the tail post. And all you do is you just thin them out as you go to the tail post, so it makes a nice airfoil shape. And then once I did that, once I sanded them in, I actually then took a little bit of thin CA and I just kind of wicked it over those sticks, because it does get a little thin back there. It just made it tougher and stronger. Didn't add any weight. It just made it a little bit more durable. And I did that as well as I hit number 3 and number 4 right along the side there. But that's basically then what it does is to make it a BIS. So then when you look at from a, and let's see if we can maybe sight down it this way, coming from the rear, there's the round side, okay? And I'll just slowly do that. And then we're gonna go to the flat side. All we're trying to achieve is to give that fuselage a little bit more of a rounder shape. And it'll all taper to the back. And when you cover this, it'll look just like that photo that Joe showed you on those color profiles of what an N17 bis look like. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go in, I'm just gonna add my 3 front, 3/16 square formers in here. And I wanna do that because I don't wanna knock these loose. So we're gonna go ahead and do that really quick. And then come back and I'll show you how I started a stringer, and then we'll jump on into other areas and I'll finish the rest of the stringers this evening.
So what Chuck has accomplished is he's accomplished with this changing this into a bis, is he's accomplished having Mean Joe build another one right after he gets done with this one, so he can have a bis as well.
And I think Ronnie is, to our last conversation, Ronnie was thought about doing a bis as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be cool just to have something different. That's the thing. Yeah. Just something different. Mean Joe had to stick with the script on his, and that's okay. But
that's okay.
It's all good. Do me a favor when you get done gluing. When we were talking before the podcast started, show them also the sheeting and where the sheeting starts and stops and what the difference is on the sheeting.
I can do that right now.
You can finish gluing. Okay. You don't want to have to.
It's already wicked in, and that one's already in. Okay. On the standard built Nieuport 17, your light ply sheeting, which we'll actually cover on Thursday, runs all the way back to the trailing edge of the wing. We'll actually stop at this bulkhead, which is also coincidentally is the same place that your top turtle deck sheeting stops and then transitions into the balsa wood. On the 17 bis, let's call it Bishop, all right? It actually stops short. Okay, and thanks, Joe, for bringing it up, because I'm gonna show you guys something that I kind of did, and you won't be able to see it, but I left these individual little stringers right here. They're a little bit proud of the bulkhead, meaning they don't sit flush like we did right here. And the reason is it gave me a little bit of a lip, if you will, to butt this up against. And then once I get that glued on Thursday, I'll final sand down to those so that transition is nice and smooth. Yet, when I apply that covering, I still get that little concave or that little Humpty Bump look that we're trying to achieve. So, all right. Thanks, Joe, for bringing it up. I actually forgot about that.
Gary, we talked about what we're going to power with these on the first episode. I know my setup is going to have a Rimfire 32. Well, that's what I believe I'm going to have because I'm testing. I've got the other electric converted one back sitting over there, and it's actually has the Rimfire 32 Castle 75 amp ESC, and I'm going to be running it on 3S 5200. And I think Chuck's very similar to that.
Yes, I am.
So it's pretty close to that. Now you can do these in glow. You can do these. I wouldn't recommend. I know there's a couple of newer. I know. I've been talking. Yeah, I've been talking to Tom, and they've got a 16cc now that seems to be pretty solid from Valley View Hobbies. You want to check out valleyviewhobbies.com or valleyviewrc.com. They've got a new 16cc gasser. That'd be a lot for this power-wise, but if you kept the throttle management on, it would probably give you the adequate amount of nose wake. I'm sure it would fit because to me from the pictures, it looks like it takes about the same footprint as like a 46 size glow. So I would think that would work out fine. I haven't checked it out yet, but that's one of the ones I've been kind of looking at for a future build. I might do my bis with the 16cc.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, the OS 46 or the OS P40 or FP40 is works real good on this too as well.
And Joe, remember when you talked about adding a little bit of a twist on those side stringers?
Yes.
There is an option you can do. Let me go ahead and you guys all get your cutters out there. I forget.
Yeah, we just had another question about that. We just brought that up. That is actually, and doggone it, I can't remember.
It'll come to me. Shoot.
I'll look it up while you're talking. It's all good.
Okay. All right. So remember that twist that Joe was talking about? That putting those stringers in, when you get to that last bulkhead, for you guys, it'd be back here. You put a little bit of a twist in. Well, to help relieve the stress in the wood, I didn't do that. But what I did was, when I put them in, I left them a little proud above that bulkhead that I'm attaching to. And then I'm going to just take my knife and I'm going to slightly carve down just a little bit and kind of pre-round that shape. All right, so now I'm not adding any stress into the wood. All right, there we go. And I'll also, like, my bottom one sits a little bit proud too on F3. But then what I'll do is I'm going to take my sanding block and I'm going to round them down. Okay. It won't take much. Remember we talked about on the sandpaper, guys. Use a nice, good grit. Use the right grit for the job, and you're letting the sandpaper do the work. Don't be pressing down on it. You don't want to be bowing the wood or anything like that. And it just reminded me to do something. So
the answer
ahead,
to
Joe.
your question is Foremost Products.
There you go.
And they have several different tools. I've actually already got mine coming. So I'm trying to find.
Remember what I said, Joe? Send me the bill.
Yeah, they have all kinds of different things. I know, and it's funny because while I was looking, I had several of the guys jump on and say it's Foremost. Yes, that is Foremost.
Perfect.
They have a miter sander. They have a miter cutter. They have all kinds of really cool tools. So we'll be checking that out.
And because I jumped ahead and I got a little sidetracked, guys, I forgot a kind of important step. And I kind of even pre-read about it. It's adding this diagonal brace, the forward diagonal brace. I don't know if you can see it, or even in Joe. But right there, there's a forward diagonal brace. We need to add those before you add the sides. Not a big deal. You can
let me show you what
he's
he's talking about here. I've got a picture right here. Screen share, tab. Right here, this brace right here is the one he's talking about. That's behind the stringers.
Right. Not a big deal if you didn't add it and you missed it like me as far as timing. There's enough room for you to even get my fat hands in there to do. A little bit of a thick CA there in the corners just to reinforce it.
Now, one of the things that I did a little bit different, because I've got big Mean Joe man hands. So what I did, and I'm going to try to pull this in. Chuck, if this feedback's bad, let me know. I don't think it should.
That's all good, Joe. I know.
This right here. So this is my side of my fuselage. You can see what I've done. Right here, I've added access holes. So I've got a set of access holes, one there and one there. So that when I get this all put together, I can come through the side of the fuselage with my Allen wrench and access the blind nuts to the other side. It just makes it a little easier to get to. And since I boxed mine off, I know you can see here, but this is the inside of the box that I built for where my batteries are going to sit right here. It's going to be really hard to get to the blind nuts. So I just put a couple of little access holes on the side of my light ply here, so they'll be able to get to them. This could be used for repairs later in the field. It's going to make things a lot easier to get to. You will cover that up with the chin cowl, but to me, it's going to make it a little bit easier to get to that stuff if you need to. Good
stuff. And you know what's funny is the quarter scale version is built exactly the same way, guys. And I crashed mine because I did something really stupid. I'm not even going to talk about it. But I had to remove those forward conveying struts, and I kind of did very similar to what Joe did, and it made the repairs of the aircraft that much easier. So that was a good point that you brought out, Joe. All right.
Yeah, guys, to me, it just makes it easier to do it that way than it is to deconstruct the whole front end to try to get to the blind nut.
Absolutely. For two little screws. So, okay, I've actually mounted one stringer, I'm just sighting down it right now to see how we're looking. And we're looking pretty good. And actually I just lined it up with the one in the back. So that's my reference point. I know where my starting point was at, and all I had to do was start lining it up to the tail. So I'm going to go ahead and remember that point we talked about where you might have to add a little scrap or something right here? And I'll do this. See how it's a little bouncy right there? I'll put a little scrap. I actually slide it in. Once I get all of them on there, I'll slide it right in. All the other ones are pretty darn good where they set there, and I'll end up gluing those on as well. But I just wanted to get that one started to show you guys, really within an extra 10 minutes worth of work, you could have something a little bit different than the guy maybe next to you who's building one. So, but moving forward, all right. So we added our cross members. We've got our cheek cowls all framed in. The next step is we're going to mount the wing hold down plate, which is on step 5, which is also 42. What they want us to do, and this is where I'm going to use a little bit of epoxy for the guys asking out there about questions, because this is considered for me, a hard point. I'm going to epoxy this in, and then also within the step 2, it talks about, let me see here, basswood lower wing mount, but it doesn't talk about the triangle stock. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to add that triangle stock right underneath at the same time. Why? I've got my epoxy mixed up. So I'm going to do that. I marked it. Get my real cool cutter out, because this does cut triangle stock, guys, as well.
So right here is the section that Chuck is working on. If you need to see right there, this rear block, and you can see that the triangle stock is already in place on mine. It's already there and ready to go.
That was easy. That's good. Triangle stocks are cut from my scrap. Let's put them there. I already test fitted the rear mount, and guys, it fit perfect. No trimming needed. It dumped in really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a little bit of epoxy. You could use thick CA. You could use Tight Bond. I'm just gonna use a little bit of epoxy and glue that bad boy in place. Ronnie's not here, guys, because he is finishing his last week of college this week. So he's kind of doing some home, like a lot of guys are. He's doing the home thing from Ball State. So he had some courses this week and finals that he needed to wrap up. So he'll join us back, I think, on Saturday. And the way Ronnie goes, he'll probably be showing us a covered airplane. I don't know, maybe. I hope not, but I really like having him around. So
no, he said he was going to wait and build. He's going to get caught up to us and be ready to build the stab on Saturday, is what he said.
You know, that's killing him.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So the way he goes, and he's so excited, and it's actually really nice to have somebody so enthusiastic around. So, all right, so I'm going to do a little bit of epoxy here. I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
So are you using 5 minute, Chuck?
Oh, yes, I'm using 5 minute. Anything, a project this size, anything 5 minute is going to be plenty. But what I'm going to do, because I am going to glue my triangle stocks at the same time, instead of trying to handle small triangle pieces, I'm actually pre-gluing, if you will, the sides to where the triangle stock would go. All right, so I put some epoxy in the notches, and also a little bit on the sidewall. Excuse me, balls of dust. I'm going to add it here and on top to where the triangle stock would fit on the top part. You guys hear my cat squeaking around there?
No.
Okay, good.
So while Chuck's gluing, I will remind you that if you head over to balsausa.com and enter in coupon code N17BUILD, all caps, no spaces, you'll receive 10% off on your very own 1/6 scale Balsa USA Nieuport 17 kit.
And like clockwork, that worked out like a champ. So it's already pre-glued, so all I have to do is set them in there. They're in. Wipe away any extra. Any bit of extra glue is weight. I'm kind of a weight freak when it comes to airplanes. Anybody that builds with me knows. And grab a rag here real quick. Good.
I want to thank our viewers from last week for bringing up the foremost products thing. Chuck had picked his up at a swap meet and didn't know where it came from, but there was a viewer
100 years ago. Yep.
Yep. When Chuck was in his 40s, 100 years ago.
That's right.
I want to thank all of our live viewers for showing up. We've got Gary, we got Jim G, we got Bob, we got who else we got? We got Gonzalo.
Is that Gibney that's on there?
I don't know. Jim G.
Jim G.
Gibney.
All right. Jim's my flying buddy from Livonia, Michigan.
Livonia, Michigan. That's right down the road from where me and Joe is in Lansing.
That's right. And Jim, if that is Jim, he's one of those guys that's going to join us in the dawn patrols whenever we get back to flying again. So he's excited on the World War I stuff as well.
Perfect.
Okay, guys. Moving forward, that's 5-minute epoxy. By the time I'm done talking, it's going to be dry enough for what we need to do. Okay, so we got our triangle stocks, 3/8 triangle stock pieces in place. Also talks about cutting from scrap, a 1/8 inch scrap filler part from the end of the wing saddle to the trailing edge. That's when our scrap box comes in place. Remember that scrap box, guys, where all our knockouts and everything come from? That's where I'm going to grab that piece of balsa wood at. So I've got one right here. So I'll put that down. And what this is doing, this scrap piece, because actually I had to look at it twice, but what it is, it's going to go right here. It's going to close up this gap of the trailing edge of the wing to that bulkhead. And what that is, it's so that when we cover the bottom with our covering, it has something to adhere to. It actually has a starting point, more importantly, an ending point, so that we can kind of tuck and wrap that around. So that's what we'll do now. Like I said, scrap. And also, guys, pay attention. And as you build, notice the grain of the wood and which way it goes and how it affects the strength of the airframe. For example, the grain on this one is going to run widthwise of the fuselage. If I would have run it the other way, you'd be able to push and break it real easy because the grain would be bowing and wanting to bow down at that point. And if you have doubt about which way the grain actually should go, just kind of look at the airplane. Look at where the grain goes and what you've already done. Look at the plans. The plans show the grain as well on some areas, and just see where that grain goes and far as strength goes. And also, when you start getting to gussets, a little bit maybe on future builds, pay attention which way the grain goes on gussets, because if you don't do it right, then the gusset's not doing any value. Just like shear webs. We'll get into shear webs probably in about 3 episodes when we start building the wing and what those shear webs actually do on the aircraft for strength anyways. So how I'm gonna do the scrap is I just found my piece, I tucked it in there, did a tick mark real quick on where it should end. I left it a little bit long. I always like to sand back a little bit. Get my cutting pad here and my little square, and I'm going to cut that piece. Take that scrap back because I'll still use that for something else, I promise you. All right, let's check for fit and width. A little knockdown of sanding, which is to be expected. A little bit more. Just a couple of swipes, guys. Remember, let the sandpaper do its job. If it's not doing its job, you have the wrong course or grit of sandpaper. All right. That fits pretty good. Now I'm just putting a couple of tick marks to where it ends at the trailing edge of that wing. Use my straight edge off my ruler because it was handy. I'm going to cut that piece. Another good scrap. Back in the box. And it's in. Now, here's what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to tack glue it in. Make sure the fit is everything where I want it to be, the location. Once again, I'm leaving it just a fuzzball high or proud, as I say, because I like to sand down to it to make a nice, good fit. let that kick real quick. Oh yeah, see, that's already tacking up nicely. So that part's mostly done. All right.
So Neen asked, what's the build time on this? So we're not 100% sure what the build time is going to be, but I will let you know that we're on our 5th episode, and we will be completed with the fuselage fully and moving on to the stab Saturday. So we'll have one more episode where we're working on the fuselage, and that's going to be almost all sheeting. And then after that, we will be starting the stab. So, we're looking at probably what, Chuck? Maybe 8 more episodes. So right now we're 5 hours in.
That'd be a good guess. And guys, I had the same conversation with a friend of mine, and he, who was looking to do one in between projects, kind of a filler thing. Excuse me. And I let him know where I'm at. And I go, this is for us has been a slow 5 hours because we're talking, we're explaining, we're talking about adhesives, fitting pieces, things like that. Reasonable. You could have a fuselage to where we're at tonight in a weekend. And I mean, that weekend, if you spend a couple hours in the morning, maybe an hour in the afternoon, you did the same thing on Sunday, you're exactly where we're at. So this plane literally goes together super fast. So we're taking it slow. And that's why we kid around about Ronnie, the way he goes, because he's just moving, and Ronnie's a man of few words. So he's more efficient than Joe and I are. So it's a really quick build. What's that?
He doesn't speak.
So, all right, catching back up. I've got my scrap filler in place, which is exactly what we talked about. So when we do our sheeting, our sheeting will stop to there. It's in place. I've tack glued it. I confirmed my fit. I like it. Then I went back through and re-glued it. Give it a real quick final sand so that it's flush with the bottom of the fuselage formers. Good. And something I like to do, guys, and I do this a lot, and maybe it's just me, but you saw how short I did on the sanding there. And what happens is now there's sawdust that's all laying down in here. That's when I take my thin CA and I'll go back in and I'll wick into those areas, and it's almost like a little filler. Now it's not going to fill gaps or anything like that, but it kind of, I don't know, finishes things off for me. And even before that thin CA kicks, I give it a couple more squirts, and you look at it and it looks like it's like one piece. So just something I do, I liked, and it seems to work. Well, that CA kicked off real quick. Good, nice and smooth. I like it. Once again, I'm letting the sandpaper use the work, guys. I'm not applying any pressure. So there we're done with that scrap piece in there. Okay, next step. Moving on, we're flipping the page, guys. We're now on page 23 at the very top, and we're going to start with the notes, which is where the wing saddle will need to be extended past the sides of the fuselage in order for the to meet up with the plywood side sheeting that we're going to do on Thursday evening. So what that is you'll notice in your kit there's various assortment sizes of little balsa squares. I guess I put it that way. Sheeting squares. There's 16th and there's 3/32. Some are 4 inches, some are 6 inches, and some are 8 inches, I believe. So I'm taking 2 of the 3/32 by 3 by 6, and they're going to form the sheeting that we're talking about. And what we're doing exactly this. Okay, we're going to lay it in there like that, and we're going to sheet this area closed. Don't freak out. We're going to go back in and open it up a little bit later on. But what this is doing is now allowing for us, and even more critically, if you guys are doing the little BIS version, is that when we do our sheeting, or our side sheet cowls, it has something to lay against and sit flush against. Okay, so we'll leave that a little bit proud. We'll sheet against it, we'll glue it, and then we'll sand this all back to form a nice rounded shape on that wing saddle. So 3/32. And what I'm going to do, on mine, we'll do it this way here. I'm going to sand a little bit of a bevel on mine. All right. And by the way, I kind of picked on that sheet. There's more pieces of this that you use later on. You'll actually use it for the bottom of the wing, of the lower wing. I mean, I kind of picked, I kind of sorted the wood, and there were some harder pieces. I left those for the bottom of the wing. Okay. Just it's where the landing gear mounts, the rear end of the landing gear mounts. It's an area where you'll be taken on and off quite a bit to get the, because you have to remove 2 landing gear straps to get the lower wing off. So it's kind of like a high touch point area. So I left the harder balsa for the bottom of the wing. I do that on my bigger planes. I like in the center sections. All that heavier balsa I'll keep on the bottom of the center section, more towards the forward. That's the areas we tend to handle that sees a lot of action. But anyways, and I forgot which side I just sanded the bevel in, so we'll resand another one. But anyways, so I'm sanding a little bit of a bevel. And the reason that bevel is there is because when I do wrap it, all right, I want it to, it needs to wrap to the front like that. And if I didn't sand that bevel in it, I'd have a gap or an opening. Just like I said, keeping things nice and clean and tidy. Let me see how that looks from here. I can't see from the other side. How are we doing? Pretty good. Yeah, it's looking all right. I'm going to take my CA and I'm going to tack a corner down. I'm going to hold it while that's drying. See if that's all right. Tack another corner down. Hold it while it tacks up a little bit. All good. Now, tack it in the middle. Get my fingers in there. There we go. Or I could have done it from the outside dummy. All right. Tack it in the middle there. And tack it in the middle there. Hold it while it dries, because that's more or less the curved part of it. All right. Tack it again on the trailing edge. Trailing edge on their side. All right. That's what they're talking about. Notice the forward fit there. Now what I have to do is I'm going to add the rear piece. I could have glued these 2 pieces together, but glued them together, cut the fit, did that. But just for time and expediency, guys, and just to show you that this thing goes together a lot quicker than what you think, I just was going to do it just like that. So I'm going to flip it upside down. There's where I trim there. Whoops, and just knock that loose. And we're going to trim there a little long. Need a longer cutting device, straight edge. And I'll sand back to it to make sure it's all good. Do it that way so you guys can see how we're doing. That's good. Sand back just a little bit on that edge. That's too weak of sandpaper there. There we go. That's 220 I have there for another project I've got going on. And how are we looking on the fit? Pretty good. Yeah, broke one. Darn this. Let me glue that before I lose that piece. Remember, guys, it's okay to break these things because we have glue to fix them. Boom, boom, done. Okay. So that piece is looking pretty good. The fit's looking really good.
I don't know who that is. Wild Bill. I didn't remove any comments. I'm not sure what that is.
Maybe think about the previous video.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. Sheeting is in place. Now once I'm happy with my fit, I'm going to run my thin CA on the outside just to re-adhere it everywhere. That's good there. And we're good there. Now notice, guys, that is still a little proud hanging out right there. We're going to leave it. I mean, if you want to trim it back a little bit, you can, but I suggest don't mess with it at this point because we're going to do that's a nice little area to get a nice shape and everything for you to rest your side pieces on. And we're good. And then what will happen is once we get everything buttoned up, we'll actually open this area up, all right, for you to do install on your radio equipment. But we're going to do that a little bit later. I kind of like things being like that. It kind of keeps things rigid and better to handle. So, and that's, Joe, how are we doing on time? That's kind of where we have our stopping point. Okay. So what I'll do, we got a little bit of time?
We're at 50 minutes.
Oh, nice. Okay. So then what I was going to do then is I was just going to add another stringer in place. I pulled that one off for a reason because I didn't like the stress that I had in it. So I was going to re-glue it. But Joe, how are we looking on what? We have any more questions out there?
I don't
maybe
see.
Want to jump in?
I see a gentleman that said, save this program. These videos are all available on the YouTube channel. There is actually a playlist for the 1/6 scale Shop Time Live Newport build along videos. They have their very own playlist, and they're super, super easy to find. If you go over there, you can subscribe. Once you go over to the YouTube channel, make sure you remember to hit that subscribe button. If we get to 3,000 viewers by what would have been the first full Friday of Joe Nall 2020, we're going to be giving away a quarter scale kit of the winner's choice. So don't miss out on that opportunity. Don't forget, if you swing over by ballsusa.com, enter in coupon code N17BUILD, all caps, no spaces, you will be able to receive 10% off your very own kit. A kit purchase obviously is not necessary to take place in watching the videos. This is just if you want to join along with us and do your own build.
You guys have plenty of time to catch up with us. Like I said, Joe and I are doing this 3 times a week for approximately 50 minutes a night. So there's plenty of time for you guys to catch up and follow along with us.
West, in some cases we do. Last week, Chuck showed that he took some quart cans and wet his sheeting down with some Windex or some ammonia, and then put rubber bands around it and rubber banded it to a couple of quart cans so that he could actually get the bend that he wanted on his fuselage. I did the same thing on mine to get my bend. It's not the worst thing to be able to, what's the words I'm looking for? It's not the worst thing to wet it down. It's going to help you. I believe our friend Ronnie had some issues last week with breaking a couple of pieces.
Yeah, he broke a couple pieces.
So wetting them down with some ammonia or even just plain water is going to help it become a little bit more pliable. Just remember that when you do that, that is going to increase your CA dry time just a little bit, but it's not like a whole lot, so it wouldn't be something that you would really probably even notice. Yes, Jim, I will actually, and that wasn't the same Jim, just so you know.
Right.
I will actually make a list. I will have Chuck send me an email that has a list of the changes made and the parts needed, and I will be adding that to the show notes so that we can make sure that the Newport BIS conversion is available for at least Bishops. Yeah. So at least you'll have the information available for you to be able to do that conversion. I don't see Matt Anderson from Anderson RC is in the chat. How are we doing, Matt?
Hi, Matt.
I miss you this year, brother. We're not going to be able to see you. No, I might have to make a trip down there to Smyrna, Tennessee, and go down there and see my good friend, Matt Anderson. Matt, for those of you that don't know, is an absolute rock star, and he is one of the ones that keeps this hobby going. Make sure you swing over by AndersonRC.com. If you need stuff for your hobby, they are there. They are working, and I'm sure Matt would be happy to ship you whatever you would need. So all
Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. All right. Well, do we have any other questions while we're still here? Mean Joe's trying not to glue his fingers to his plane here.
Yeah. No, I got some stringers lined up, and by the time we probably sign off, Joe, I'll have the other side of the Bishop all done.
Perfect. So once again, let me do this screen share. Make sure you don't forget to swing over by balsausa.com. Enter in coupon code N17, all caps, no spaces, for your chance to win, or for your chance to get 10% off of your Newport 17 kit so you can build along with us. Also, don't forget to swing by the Balsa USA YouTube channel, and I'm bringing that up right now. And go by here. Make sure you hit subscribe once you get here, as soon as this loads. If you go onto your YouTube account and you go to the top and you go to the channel that you want. So we'll go over to the Balsa USA YouTube channel. There will be a subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. And you want to make sure you hit this little bell icon that's up here, because this bell icon lets you know when there's new content available on that site. So make sure you click the bell. Make sure you subscribe. As soon as we hit 3,000 subscribers, we are going to be giving away a quarter scale kit of your choice. And as you can see right here, we are at 2,890. So we're getting really close to being able to give away the quarter scale kit. And that is a quarter scale kit of your choice. So there's lots of stuff to choose from. Let's see. Spad. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to thank all of our live viewers for being here. I want to thank Mr. Chuck Hamilton for being on and
always
sharing all of his knowledge. And we'll be back next Tuesday, or I'm sorry, we'll be back on Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the completion of the fuselage. And then on Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be moving on to the stab. So make sure you join us for that. Make sure you watch for us to be back again soon. Thank you all so much for being here. And as always, happy building.
Peace.